So integration of hardware and firmware is a topic. There are various ways where we can integrate our firmware with your hardware. So when we develop an application, we'll be doing the application in the host system. So embedding the firmware into the target board where all the hardware is available. That is called as integrating firmware and hardware. Otherwise, we can tell it as we are embedding the intelligence into product. So when you take hardware without working, there is no use of that hardware. So we need to have a working software into the hardware. So that working software will make your hardware to be more intelligent. So embedding intelligence into the product, also we can call it as embedding firmware into the product. The embedded processor and controller which is used for target board may have some internal memory. It will not have more memory. So it will have only some part of internal memory which is present along with that. Maybe if you take some of the embedded products where you have like operating system is not available, only you have only controlling code, that time the internal memory itself is more than sufficient. So example is small toys, small robots where we don't have operating system, same code is again and again it is executing. In such kind of a super loop based embedded application, you need only internal memory. There is no need of external memory to be interface with your embedded processor for storing the code. So for a simple application, internal memory is enough. The simple application we can call it as non-operating system based embedded product. So the simple application will not have any operating systems along with it. So this type of embedded applications are called as non-operating system based embedded product. Okay. For such kind of embedded products, you can have only internal memory is enough. Now, sometimes you need a complete OS to be copied in the embedded application. In that scenario, your internal memory may not be sufficient, and it will not support some internal memory may not support code to be loaded into that. That internal memory is very simple. It will have very less information can be stored in that internal memory. Such kind of environment, it will not support code memory. Code memory means for a program, whatever the firmware you have, that is called as code memory. Whatever the firmware you are going to store it, that is called as code memory. That firmware it will not be held in your internal memory. In that scenario, we need external dedicated EEPROM or flash memory for storing our firmware. Firmware is a software which we design for our embedded application, that is called as firmware. Okay, so that you can store it in internal memory provided it is very small, but sometimes your built-in internal memory may not support the code memory. In that scenario, we need an external dedicated RAM. That external dedicated RAM like ROM or flash memory, we can use it for holding the firmware. So here, whenever we take any embedded application, whatever we develop the code, directly we are not going to develop the code in the board itself. That already we have seen when we are developing a program in our lab. So your board, like we are not typing anything in the board, we are writing program everything in the system, laptops or computers. Then whatever we type the code, we execute. The code directly we are not sending again. The code we execute and we generate hex file. Hex file, executable file will generate. That executable file through the flash, like we are going to flash that by using a flash magic. We are flashing the code which is written in the application into the board. So in the board we have all on-chip flash memory where our embedded application will be stored. So that will again in our board we don't have any OS and all, just we have only small flash memory where we are just flashing the small code into that so that particular component will work. But when you same thing, it's not that your LPC2148 cannot hold operating system. It can hold operating system. As of now, when we are doing in a lab, we are just taking one simple code which will execute for one particular hardware. That's why we are not worrying about the operating system. When you have more number of hardware to be connected to the single board, in that scenario, the task switching and all is required. So we need an operating system. So when we need operating system, we need more memory in our embedded system to store the operating system. Now next we'll see what are the methods we have for embedding your firmware into the embedded device. So there are 5 different ways we have to copy the firmware into the target board. So for that, first one is out of circuit programming, in system programming, in application programming, then use of factory programmed chip, firmware loading for operating based device. So there are 5 different ways we can load our firmware into the target board. So here in your LPC2148, our board supports two types of programming. One is ISP, another one is IAP, in application programming. So when we discuss the features of LPC2148 microcontroller, we told that our LPC2148 microcontroller board supports 2 ways of the programming. One is in system programming, another one is in application programming. But it out of circuit programming use a factory program chip, firmware loading for operating based device, that and all a different way of loading your firmware into the target board. So if you take out of circuit programming, no, what it will do is it will we are going to remove the complete hardware from the where we want to copy, that will remove it from the circuit, and then we'll copy the firmware, and then we'll once again we'll put the memory chip to the back to the embedded device. That is out of circuit programming. So we'll see how it works. So out of circuit program, if you take, no, it is performed outside the target board. Out of circuit program is performed outside the target board. The memory chip where you want to load a firmware will be taken out of the target board. It will be taken out of the target board. Usually that in such scenarios, no, it will be you will be having many slots for memory slots you will be having. So those memory slots you can easily, we can remove the memory chip from the memory slot, and then whatever after removing it, we will be fixing that into the burning device where some slots will be available. Here, no, there are some you will have a ZIG slot. That ZIG slot, I think you people, when you do in a third some LD lab, you would have seen some IC tester device in our lab. So in the IC tester device in our lab, we'll have some small blue color where like 40 pin socket is our 40 pin sockets or 20 pin sockets will be available. You people like that, whichever the pin we want to program or something, no, we'll put in this fixing slot. So once you put in the fixing slot, then you lock it. You have some knob for lock it. So you lock the chip. So later we'll try to copy the firmware into the target board. Like we'll take it, like we'll take your memory chip out of it. The chip may be a pin. It will have some pin. For fixing that pin in the slot, there are slots will be available. In that slot, you will fix the your memory chip in which you want to copy your firmware, and then you'll close it, you lock it, and then you'll copy the firmware to that. So you'll be doing this with the help of the programming devices like TAL48UXP. These are all the programming device which is used for programming your firmware. And you can use a programming device unit. Necessary hardware circuit will be available in this, and it generates the programming signal, and then you can run the program on the PC, and then usually if you take this whatever the programming hardware device will be interface to the PC by using RS-232 or using USB or using parallel port. You will be connecting your the chip to the PC by using this type of a communication, serial communication, or parallel port also we can use. Now this here in this diagram we have a zip lock. I think this kind of a zip lock, if people would have seen that. Okay, you can see here in this zip lock there are this is 40 pin zip lock socket. In this zip lock socket, we will take the memory chip where you want to copy your firmware, and then you will fix in this slot. So once you fix this in the slot, and then here you have a knob, you can pull this knob so that your memory chip will be connected to the circuit will be closed. Otherwise, just you will have your chip is connected here, and you will have only but circuit will not be closed. When you pull this knob down, then the circuit will be closed. This kind of IC testers you would have seen in your lab, third semester lab. So by using which you can program your IC, and then this will be available in your hardware programming tool, which you discussed in the previous slide. So there you will fix this, and then you will this particular chip will be communicating with the PC through the USB or RS-232 communication or parallel port communication. This will be communicating with your PC. Now if you take what are the sequence of operation which is going to happen when you are embedding your firmware with the program are given in the steps. First step, what we should do is you should take the programming device, you have to connect your programming device to a specified port of PC, and then you have to power up the device. After connecting, you should power up the device, and in your PC you will be having a programming utility. We have to execute the programming utility on the PC to check whether the connectivity is established between the PC and the programmer. And then you have to unlock the ZIF socket by turning the lock pin. Then you have to insert the device. Okay, we have to insert the device. Here programming device means that this socket will be available on hardware device. That device is called as programming device. So this programming device will be connected to PC. This programming device will be connected to PC. In that programming device, this particular ZIF socket will be available. You can assume that one small box where that is a programming device. In that one position, you'll have this ZIF socket. Okay, there you have, before connecting that, we have to use a small box kind of programming device. You have to connect to the specified port of your PC. Then that programming device, you switch on the programming device, and then we have to execute the programming utility on the PC to check whether your PC is identifying this programming device. And then first, if it is in a lock state, first you have to do the unlock of your ZIF socket. So then it will open when you do unlock, it will open the pin. Now what we have to do is you have to insert the memory chip or any programming chip where you want to copy the firmware into the socket. So after doing that, you have to close the socket. So lock the ZIF socket, and after locking the ZIF socket, you have to select the device name from the supported device. There are set of supported device will be there. From there, we have to select the list of supported device. So in this, the memory chip name all will be available. So you have to select the device name. If your memory chip name is something, it will be written on your memory chip, the chip number. What is the memory chip number? So in your PC, in that utility, if you open it, there will be a list of memory chip configuration which is supported by this utility will be available. You have to select one particular device which you connected in the list of device. So once you select it, and then what we should do is we should identify the X file which I want to copy. So that X file will be available in your system PC. So you have to select that X file and load into the embedded device. And then program option of utility, you have a program device option. So you have to choose that in your utility program. And then once you choose, it will take time for copying your program from your utilities device to utility program to your chip. So you have to wait till the completion of that operation. Once it is successfully completed, copying from utility program to the chip is done, it will show the status in the LED. It will make the LED on in the programmer. So there will be LED which indicates the copying from your PC to the memory chip is done. So you have to check the status of LED. So once the status of LED is done, no, now that means your data is copied from your PC to your memory chip. Once it is done, you have to unlock the zip socket and you have to take the device out of the program. That device you have to take that memory chip out of your device. So now your program, whatever you want, that is available in your memory chip. Now this you can insert into the target board. This you can insert in the target board and then you can run. So here, this is the very first way of doing embedding, like very first way of embedding firmware into the target board. So here, the logic here is you have embedded device where there are easily removable slots are available. From there, you are removing the memory chip where you want to copy your firmware. So firmware, that memory chip can be EEPROM or flash memory. You just remove that memory chip. So when you remove that memory chip, that memory chip you have to insert into the you have one device where in this device sockets will be available. Ziplock sockets will be available. In that Ziplock sockets, depending on the pin, if you have 40 pin or 20 pin, so which particular socket, there will be different pin configuration, different sockets will be available. You have to fix your memory chip into the particular socket, and then you have to connect the device to the PC, and connectivity has happened or not. You have to check through. There are some messages will come whenever connectivity is successful. You'll get messages that your device is connected to PC for some utility program. Will send a successful message. Once device is connected, you unlock your zip socket, place your memory chip in the zip socket, and then close the zip lock. You have to close the zip lock. So once you have closed the zip lock, then you choose the name of the memory chip from the utility program. So the memory chip name will be written on your chip itself. Then you choose that, and then already executable file you have. What is that embedded software? No, you have executed and you have X file. Whatever the X file is generated, it is available in your PC. Choose this X file and select for a program operation. You select that. When you select the program operation, the program will your program will be copied from your system to your memory chip. Now program is copied, then that indication will happen in LED. So once LED shows that successfully copied your program to the memory chip, and you can remove your memory chip from your device. Now whatever the memory chip you program, that you can insert into your embedded device. So they may ask you to explain out of circuit programming. Explain the copying your embedded firmware into the embedded device by using out of circuit programming. So this is an important question, or they may ask explain out of circuit programming. So this is how you have to explain how the out of circuit programming happens through the steps you have to explain. These 12 steps you have to explain, and you have to tell that out of circuit programming is performed outside the target board. Your chip is removed and it is performed outside the target board. Then next you have in system programming, ISP. So in system programming, your copying of a firmware will be done within the system only. So what does it mean is, firmware is embedded to the target device without removing it from the target board. So target device is the memory chip where you want to copy your firmware. So without removing it from the target board, you are copying your firmware into the embedded device. So this is called as in-system programming. Out of circuit programming means you are removing your chip from the board, whereas in-system programming means your chip is available within the board only. From where it will be available inside the board only. Through the some code, we will be copying the embedded program or firmware into a target device. Actually, if you see, it is an easy way of firmware embedding and more flexible also. So, but only thing is your target device must have a ISP support. Our LPC214 microcontroller has ISP support and IAP support also. Both support is available. So you can check with the features of LPC2148 when we discuss. If you copied those points, you will have that ISP support and IAP support. So if a system is having ISP support, in system programming support, then we can easily do our to embed your firmware into the target device without removing it from the target board. Okay. Now, whenever this chips, whichever the chips it has supporting your ISP, no, it actually generates some programming signals internally. This, like the target board, can be interfaced to the utility program running on the PC through serial port. Here, you people have done the labs. You are connecting your board, your target board, whatever the target board we have in our lab, that is ARM evaluation board, that we are connecting to the PC through the serial port communication. So many times you would have got the error when you don't keep your sockets, like if you don't lock your sockets properly, that time you used to get error. Sometimes serial port is not working, also used to get error. That is a serial communication port. That is a wire which you connect from your PC CPU to your target board. Then when you connect that, okay, now your target board is connected with your PC. Now it is serial RS232 serial port communication we are using. Even we can have a USB also for our target board, which are the target board we are using in our lab. Even we can have USB connectivity also. So you can connect through USB also, we can copy the program. Now serial protocols used by ISP may be JTAG. JTAG means Joint Test Action Group, and then or you can use SPI, Serial Peripheral Interface. So SPI, already we have discussed SPI in a previous third module. It's a communication interface. SPI, you have MOSI, multiple outputs once it's slave in. So that MOSI, how like your SPI, how it works, already we discussed your SPI, how it works there. So your ISP may use JTAG or SPI interface or any other protocol, proprietary protocol, it will use for communicating from your system to the device. Okay, your ISP may allow your device to communicate through with an external host through serial interfaces such as PCR terminal. It will allow your ISP will allow your device, whatever the device where you want to copy the embedded firmware, through the some external serial interfaces you can connect to your PC. Now in in-system programming, there are, if I using SPI, if a device with SPI will support a built-in SPI interfaces, and it has some EEPROM or flash memory is programmed through this interface. Flash memory is available in your device that is programmed through the SPI interface. So what are the primary IO lines we have in SPI as master out, slave in, MOSI, master in, slave out. And then you have a clock for synchronizing purpose, and then resetting your target device, ground for target device. This already we are discussed in module 3. So that in the in-system programming, like they are given the in-system programming steps for Atmel series of microcontroller here. Actually, what this microcontroller is in your Arduino board and all, this microcontroller is available. Atmel series of microcontroller. Atmel series of microcontroller AT89S is a microcontroller which comes under Atmel series. For that microcontroller, how we are going to program by using in-system programming is discussed here. Now, what we should do is, already we know that we are using SPI for programming. So we have ground and VCC there. So we have to apply the VCC and ground supply voltage, and you should make your reset pin first to high state. And then if a crystal clock is not, like your crystal is not connected across extal to the oscillation pins, so what we should do is, we should apply the clock with a frequency of 3 megahertz to 24 megahertz. These details and all set in your Flash Magic. If you remember, when you open a Flash Magic, you have set the clock frequency and all. So that Flash Magic is a tool, we are using it for LPC2148 microcontroller. Same way, different tools are available. Even Flash Magic, even we can use it for this type of microcontroller also. There clearly they specify which are the microcontroller we want in the Flash Magic. You can select. There are options are there. By default, we have kept LPC2148. For 8051 microcontroller also, we can set. For Atmel also, it is available. If you open your Flash Magic and see, for all type of microcontroller, which are the microcontroller you want to copy your embedded application, you can open that microcontroller, and then extal2 and all is available in that steps. So if you copy those steps in your record, you can see that in observation we have told you to copy the Flash Magic step. In that, clock frequency is one of the step you can see. There we can set some clock frequency between 3 megahertz to 24 megahertz, and we have to enable the serial programming by sending a program enable serial instruction to MOSI pin, and then the code, like code or data array is programmed by 1 byte at a time by supplying the address and data together with appropriate write instruction, and then your memory location is verified with the read instruction, and it gives the address of your serial output. And then after successfully copying these things to your device, your reset pin will go to low, and your power supply will be turned off. You have to turn off your chip power supply, and turn on your commence normal operation. So earlier we have turned off the chip power supply, and then now you have to turn on the normal operation. Now chip is ready with the program, you have to turn on the normal operation. So these are all the steps to program by using in-system programming for Atmel microcontroller. This, whatever you have enabled serial programming, all these things, if you take, there are windows are available, like you have some tabbed windows are available. So just you have to enable the buttons there. There is nothing like, we are not going to do anything physically connecting to 3 megahertz clock or connecting to VCC. We are not going to do anything physically there. There are already options are available in your Flash Magic only. Only you have to choose those options. Which microcontroller, then RST will be, small tick box will be there. You have to tick that RST. Then it will go to high state, and then extal2 will be available. You have to drop down, and you have to apply some megahertz between 3 megahertz to 24 hertz. You can take 10 megahertz or 20 megahertz, anything you can take, depends on how much fast your device should be. So you can apply any clock there, and then enable serial programming. There will be small tick box. You have to enable that serial programming. And what we should do is, next we have to appropriately we have to choose those instructions by selecting the devices, and then after everything, your program will be copied into your embedded board. So this is in-circuit program, in-system programming. So in this in-system programming, your very best example is our lab. In our lab, whatever the evaluation board we are using in-system programming only. In-system programming only means we are not removing any chip and copying the embedded code into that. So your memory is available. Your memory is available in your target board only. We are connecting our serial like cable from target board to PC, and then we take one utility. We have a utility, Flash Magic utility. By choosing all the clock frequency, baud rate, everything you take, and then baud rate, why we are taking baud rate and all, because there we are using RS-232 interface. we are using RS-232 interface. Here they are using SPA interface. That's why they are talking about most output and mostly they are just talking about your because we are using SPA interface. They talk about master out, slave in. But in our lab we are discussing about UART because our communication is serial communication. So we are setting the baud rate there. So after doing all the necessity setting, when you do the OK, your program will be copied from your PC to your board. So verify programming, everything will do, and then just when I click OK, complete program will be copied. Once the program is copied, it will start executing the program. This is called as in-system programming. So two way of programming we have seen. One is out of circuit programming, another one is in-system programming. So this is the difference between taking the chip out or keeping the chip inside only. Next we have in application programming. So third way of copying your embedded firmware into your embedded device. So in this way, like what we are going to do is it's a technique for running the firmware in the target device by modifying the selected portion of the code. We can select one particular portion and then we can modify and then we can run on the target code. Okay, for first time, writing it, this technique will not be used. For later, any of the code if you want to modify, only that particular portions we can modify and we can run in the circuit. And it actually, this way of programming, it modifies the program code memory which is under the control of embedded application. The boot ROM resident, your API instructions are available in boot ROM resident, and then you can use flash memory for flash memories we can use because it's easy for you to erase the programming within the very less times. We can erase the content from the flash memory, so we can use for flash memory. Okay, and then next here we have one status bit which will tell you that which is the entry point for IAP operation. So that status bit we can set it for setting which is the entry point for the IAP operation. Here now we have some set of specific register. That register have to set for performing the particular modification. We have to take some entry point here. This is a complete code will not be modified. Only the selected portion of the code will be modified. But as when you are booting, you have to use ISP, and then next for further any modification, you can go for IAP operation in application programming. Now this is the fourth way of copying your embedded firmware into your embedded device. So here you are going to embed your firmware into the target processor or controller at the time of fabrication itself. So we are not going to program it. Your embedded device, whichever the embedded device they are designing, a factory people they are designing, that time only they will fabricate the embedded firmware into your memory chip. So this is useful. For example, you take your oven or your washing machine or any embedded product which you use in your home or like home applications or any of the application. There are what they will do is we are not going to copy how the washing machine has to work. That information we are not getting, like we are not purchasing the washing machine and then with where all that we can take out of your electronic components which is present in the washing machine, and then we are not going to program it. So it is already what are the process, how the program should happen, everything is already programmed in the factory only. So then this is called as factory program chip. Factory program chip, the previous three method for learning purpose. So whenever you want to program our board, you take any board and then you want to program it for your embedded device, then you can go with the first three types. That is for the people who want to develop an embedded application. They take the board and accordingly they want to develop an embedded application for their product. Some people who do research on that embedded device and all, they can go with this type, the previous 3 types of the programming. Now this is the fourth one. In this fourth one, we are using factory program chip. Means in your fabrication time only, what they'll do is already they will copy the your entire like working of that particular a particular model of like microwave oven. If I take one microwave oven, I like there will be so many same type of microwave oven like they would have manufactured. For everything, there will be same program which is running. So that programming chip, what they will do is they will fabricate during that chip after chip manufacturing. That time only they will copy the working program into the memory chip, so that again the people who take they'll just connect to they'll just keep that in the target device and they'll fabricate the entire embedded system. So here there will not be any programming from the developer side. Already what to be worked, though that will be programmed in a factory only, because there will be huge number of chips are required for this type of devices. If I take one particular version of the model of your washing machine, there will be huge number of washing machines they would have manufactured. So for that programming chip, again and again they will not write by the developer. So the developer would have given the code, what should be the code, how your washing machine should work. That code already they would have given to the fabricators, the chip fabricator. The chip fabricator in the factory only, if you copy that in the factory, it will take very, when the manufacturing time only, one of the step will be copying your firmware. So when I do it in a manufacturing time, it reduces, the same copy only will be available in many chips. So when that same image easily we can copy in the many chip. So this will be done in the fabrication time only. So such a memory chip we are calling as factory programmed chips. So once your firmware is designed by your developer and operational stability is achieved, the firmware file can be sent to the chip fabricator. Chip fabricator is like that will be separate block where they will be developing a chip. So once that firmware programming is done by our developer, so that working and all they will test. Everything will be tested already. The working and all will be tested already. So once everything is tested, the firmware files they will send the firmware files to chip fabricator. Chip fabricator, what they will do is that whatever the files it is sent by the developer, that they will embed into the memory. So I told the factory program chips are convenient for mass production, and mass production application, and it reduces the product development time, because we are doing it in a mass. Whenever we copy something is a mass, there are easily we can do it. But the same thing individually, if you want to copy in a chip from the application PC to that, it takes very time. When production time only, we can easily copy your firmware into memory chip. This is especially used for like the products where same kind of a model is developed in thousands. Okay, thousands and lakhs together we are developing same kind of a model, same kind of washing machine. Once it is some research team sit and analyze one particular design, and then they come with that product. That product will be available in the market for many, like one or 2 years. So that time there will be a huge sale. So there will be tax together the same product will be developed. This is called as mass production. So when you have mass production, then you can go for factory programming, factory programmed chip. And then you have fifth one, it's a firmware loading for operating devices. So your OS based embedded systems are developed by using ISP, and then OS based embedded system contains special piece of a code called as bootloader. Bootloader will load your program and firmware into the main memory, and your it will start for the execution. So bootloader is used for loading your OS. Like your complete OS will be available in secondary storage. When you switch on the device, when you switch on the device, your complete program is copied into the main memory. For that, you are using a bootloader. So bootloader for such embedded system comes with a preloaded memory interfaces like JTAG. So it uses in this where you are using interfaces like I2C, TCP/IP for copying the for copying the OS there, and you can use your menu based options for selecting your OS image to the load. So this is this firmware loading for operating system based devices. This is the fifth option. Then we have seen 5 different options so far for copying your application. One is out of circuit programming, another one is ISP, another one is IAP, and then factory program chip and firmware loading for operating system based devices. So these are all the 5 different way to copy your embedded firmware to your embedded device. So you can expect the question on on this topic. Individually, they may ask questions for your out of circuit programming, in system programming, and all. They may ask individual questions because we have a lot of steps to be explained here. And otherwise, they may ask write short notes on following way of programming your firmware, like copying your firmware to embedded application. Like this, also they may ask question, or else generally they may ask how we can, what are the ways you can embed your firmware into a target device. So in this scenario, they ask for generally they ask all the 5 types you should explain. But when you are explaining all these 5 types, you should not explain in detail, because single question 5 topics you have to explain. Then you just tell that what is it regarding. Don't explain the steps and all. So if there is general question, if they ask 10 marks, just explain how the things are happening. Individually, they ask in circuit programming or in application programming or in system programming. Individually, if they are asking, you can explain the steps. Individually, also they may ask for 8 marks or 10 marks. That time you can explain the steps. So this is an important topic in your first model. Now, next we have something called as board bringing up. Now, board bringing up means you have copied your embedded application, your embedded firmware into your target device. Then next we have to switch on the board bringing up means we have to power up the board. That is called as board bringing up. That means your board should come in a working condition. You have just kept your embedded application firmware in your chip. Now your board is having the working program. Now we have to see to that the working, like you have to switch on the board, and whatever the program it is written in the chip, copied in the chip, has to execute properly by taking the interfaces part properly, connecting with the hardware, and it has to start executing. That is called as board bringing up. That power up the board is called as board bringing up. So when you power up the board, there are scenario sometimes what will happen is your board may burn, and some of the components smell. Your code is not properly done, or some reason it may burn. So it may be some power applied. There are some reasons where you are reversing of polarity, and all this properly you have to take care when you start the board. So this is called as board bringing up. And then when the PCB hardware, PCB means like your complete hardware circuit board, printed circuit board is assembled. Sometimes there will be some of the part we have to check it properly. So if you don't check it properly, if you leave some of the part check, then what will happen is that may cause damage to your hardware when it is powering it. When you are powering the board, it may cause damage to that. So first you have to check any missing components or anything is missing in the hardware. So first you have to check, then only you have to switch on the power. And then there is a power limit is there, 5 volt or 12 volt. So you should see that if it is a 5 volt, if you are connecting 12 volt power supply, that time also your board will be there will be damage in the board. So all the power line, power limits, everything you have to check. And then clock, how much clock frequency is required, that you have to check. All this after checking only you have to switch on the board. That is called as board bringing up. So what is board bringing up is checking, ensuring that all the power connection, clock frequency, all the hardware devices are proper. We have to check it. Then we have to switch on the board so that we will not have any damage to the board. This concept is called as board bringing up. Okay. Now this is second concept which we discussed. First is embedding firmware, and then second concept is board bringing up. Then next we have IDE, integrated development environment. So integrated development environment for like it's a Keil is your IDE for developing our application in our ARM board. So in this, in a host system, you will have, this is your host system, and that you have a software, host resident software. Your host resident software is your Keil. So that Keil software is available in host system, and then your this RS-232 serial communication, that is your cable. That cable is connected to your target board, and then this host resident software from the like your from the Keil, your hex file is your host resident software which is residing in your system. That we are going to, this block is your, for example, your written stepper motor code step.hex file is your host resident software. So step.hex file is your host resident software. That step.hex file host resident software, from here we are copying into target board. Now then it will become target resident software. Now this is your host resident software. Yes, through the serial communication we are copying in target board, processor's memory. So this is called as target resident software. Now once it is copied, it will start working. There are sometimes you can connect through Ethernet cables, you can connect, and then for board checking you have JTAG debugger device for board checking. So there are, you can check the board condition by using JTAG debugger. So these are all the, this is a sample scenario where you can copy your software from your host system to target system. So if you take IDE, IDE will come with editor, text editor. You open your Keil, there will be text file will be open, no? That is your text editor. And then you do the compilation, that is your cross compiler. So cross compiler. So once you wrote the code where you have header file and all, so your header files will be linked with the, like your header file lcd.h or lpc2148.h. Those header files will be linked with our code. That for that you are using a linker. Then you have debugger. So you have you are opening a debug option. No, for that debugger is required. All this tool comes as a bundle. That bundle is called as IDE. All editor, cross compiler, linker, debugger. All these four software component is packaged into a single place. That single place is called as IDE, integrated development environment. And even some of the IDE may provide a target board emulator. Target board emulator is available. So for example, we people run our software program. For a software program, we are not using a board there. And then software program, you written the instructions in ARM processor. So that instructions, ARM instructions, you are running in your system. Your system is having Intel based processor. Okay, your system, our lab system, our college systems are Intel processor. Okay, that is not a ARM processor. Now you are going to run your software program in your PC. For that you are having a emulator which will emulate your ARM environment, because ARM environment is not available in your the ARM processor is not there in your CPU, but you are emulating such kind of a processor. So for emulating your target processor, and for that your IDE supports that. Your emulating of a target processor is supported by your IDE, and even it has some of the helping file to understand how the one environment is available, and some version control tool also is available with your IDE. If you take IDE has editor, cross compiler, linker, debugger, and helping tool. and emulator, all this combined together is one bundle is called as IDE. So your IDE can be sometimes command line based IDE or GUI based IDE. So your Keil is GUI based IDE. Your graphical user interface is available. So command line based IDE, earlier we used to use Turbo C. In Turbo C, whenever you open the Turbo C, like it has limited GUI support. It will not have more GUI support. Turbo C is the example for command line based IDE. So where you have more support, like your Eclipse, you are using NetBeans, you are using, all these are GUI based IDE. But same thing with less number of user interface support, if you have, that is called as command line based GUI. Your Keil is completely GUI based only. Okay, and like whenever you invoke your IDE, when you invoke your IDE from your command line, then it's a command line based IDE. Some IDEs you have some icon, by clicking that icon you can open them. Then GUI based IDE, most of the time it will come with the icon where you can click that icon and then it will open your window where you can type the program and then compile and you can see the output. And it has all the facilities like helping, help file. If you click help file, it will tell you how to program in your IDE. Complete demo it will show. So this everything together, which is available in single location, is called as IDE. So embedded device IDE may be little different with the generic high level based IDE. So your embedded device IDE, why it is different is you need to have a target board emulator and all. But high level language based IDE will not have emulator and all. So that's why they are telling that IDEs which is based on embedded development are little different with the IDE with high level language based application. Okay, your embedded application IDE is supplied by your target processor manufacturer only. They will only give the IDE for working with their processor. So embedded applications IDEs are proprietary, and then it is manufactured by the people who develop their processor and controller. Or sometimes it may come from third party also. Okay, third party means instead of the chip developer, others also can give. Keil is actually third party only because Keil is supporting ARM 8051 microcontroller. There are so many other microcontrollers are supported by ARM. So if you take like Keil, if you take Keil is not designed by Intel, or Keil is not designed by your ARM processor manufacturer. So this is third party software. Sometimes if they supports multiple target processor, it is designed by third party software. So your embedded applications IDE, Keil, Code Composer Studio, all are example of embedded application IDE. So embedded application IDE will be having emulator and it is supplied, sometimes it will be supplied by target processor manufacturer or third party software. So Keil Microvision 5 from ARM Keil is an example of third party IDE, which is used for developing embedded firmware for 8051 microcontroller, ARM family of microcontroller. Still there are other family of microcontroller also, it is supported in Keil. And Code Warrior Development Studio in an IDE, it is ARM family of processor. Only for ARM family of processor, it is developed by Freescale. Freescale is a company which develops a embedded application. So this IDE, Code Warrior Development Studio, is developed by Freescale. Okay. Sometimes if your IDE is developed for one family of processor, only one particular family of processor, it will not support another family of processor. So that IDE which is developed by particular family of processor should be used only for that family of processor only. You cannot change it. Okay. Then what is disassembler and decompiler? So if you take disassembler, is a program. Say for example, we discussed in the fourth module something called as reverse engineering. Reverse engineering means you have a X file. From that X file, you are getting your assembly code. So X file is zeros and ones. It is converted X file. Sometimes what will happen is you would have heard about like code. You take APK, your Android APK file, and then from that APK Android APK file, what you will do is you will convert that into your Android program. APK file is a final converted Android app. So that Android app is developed by somebody. You want to work on that, how that they developed the application. You want to know in detail about the code. So what we can do is you can bring that APK file once again to the Android project, where Java files, everything will be available. So you can understand that how the program is done. So final executable product to bringing back to the program. Executable product is after conversion, you will get the executed product. But you want to know the source code from the executable file. That is called as reverse engineering. For reverse engineering, we have something called as disassembler, decompiler. Disassembler is an utility program which converts your machine code into target processor. It converts the machine code into target processor assembly code instruction. So assembly code is there. That assembly code is converted into X file. Now I want to know that the X file, when I run the X file, the program will be executing. But I want to know that how the programmer has coded that, so that I can understand. And the same kind of another application, if you want to develop, I can just make use of that assembly instruction, and then I can just add some more thing. So from the hex file, you are getting back the assembly instruction, that is called as disassembler. So disassembler is a utility which converts your machine codes, that is zeros and ones, into assembly code or assembly instruction. This process of converting this is called as disassembly. So disassembly is complement to assembly. What is assembly will do? Assembly will convert your instruction to machine code. Disassembly from machine code, it will convert into assembly. So your decompiler is a same thing. From high level it will, from the machine code, it will get your high level instruction. So this actually this is used for reverse engineering. And actually when we do know exactly the replica of original code, we will not get. When we do the disassembly or decompiler compilation, probably will not get exactly how the original code was there. Same replica will not get, but it generates some code which is matching with your original code. So that even that optimized code, it will not generate. How exactly that earlier code was there, same way it will not generate. So here disassembler and decompiler. Next we have simulators and simulators. What is simulators? What is emulators? And example of it. And then some in-circuit programming. Some more topics we have in the 5th module. So I'll stop here, and then in next session of mine I'll continue with what is a simulator and all. So if you have any questions regarding this, you can ask. Another 15 minutes you can ask.